Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today we're back to working on our Crescent bandsaw restoration. This has been kind of a fairly quick project for me. Really, this machine was in decent shape, didn't require a whole lot of work, but there were a few things that we needed to do to get her back up and running. And today, what I'm going to be doing is we're going to be installing new tires on these wheels. Now, on a bandsaw, most of the time what you're going to have is you're going to actually have a rubber tire that runs on the outside of the wheel. The purpose for that is your blade is going to be running on that. You really don't want your blade running directly on a metal wheel because that's going to dull the blade. Every time it goes around, it's going to be coming in direct contact with the bandsaw blade, the teeth on that bandsaw blade, and it's going to be dulling them. So we put a rubber tire on this, and that really kind of gives a little bit of cushion for that blade where it won't dull anything. The tires are consumable. They will eventually wear out. This one had tires on it when I got it, but they were so old they were literally just cracked and starting to come off. They were actually broken in a couple of places. So we pulled the old tires off, got brand new ones, and we're going to be showing you how to install those today. This is what I ordered to actually do the tire repair with. I got two new rubber tires. These are basically like big rubber bands, and they are made to fit different size bandsaw wheels. And then I've got some epoxy that we'll be using to actually glue these on with. This is a two-part epoxy. You mix them 1-to-1, and it makes a nice set that will make this tire stick to that wheel very well. All of this stuff I purchased from Woodworkers Tool Works up in Wisconsin, and you can go to their website at www.woodworkerstoolworks.com, and I think they have most of their bandsaw tires listed on their website, or you can give them a call, tell them what you got, what machine you got, and they can pretty well do a good job of sourcing you these tires. You need to know two things when you call them. Number one is what is the diameter of the wheel, and then also what is the width of the wheel or the face of the wheel, so that they will know which tire you need to fix your machine. In the case of the bandsaw that I'm working on today, these are 36-inch wheels, and I believe it's a 2-inch face on here. And the very first thing I want to do before we do anything else is we want to get these faces that we're going to be gluing the tires on, we want to get them cleaned up really well. So these wheels made by Crescent, I like them because they actually have a crown machined in them. So there's like two different angles that come together. You want your bandsaw wheel tires to be crowned so that there's a high spot in the center. As that wheel is running and turning, that blade will naturally want to go to the top of that high spot. And just like a flat belt does this exact same thing, but Crescent actually machined it into the tire or into the wheel itself. So you don't have to do as much work to actually crown the tires once they get on there. A lot of them will be flat, and you actually have to do a sanding process afterwards to get them where that crown's in there. When this tire goes on there, that crown will actually transfer through the rubber and still be on there. But still, we want to get them cleaned up. These, if you notice, is fairly rough turned. That is done on purpose. That actually gives some area for the glue to kind of grip to and adheres to. To clean these up, I'm just going to use a wire wheel and an angle grinder, and we'll come in here and just basically get all the rust, get all the old glue, get everything off of these wheels. I think it's going to work better that way. It gets down in those grooves better. I've gone around this several times, and I've got pretty much all the old junk off this as I can. Next thing I want to do is just come in here with some type of good solvent, cleaning solvent. In this case, I'm using mineral spirits, and just wipe that. Make sure you got all the old dust and residue and anything else that will come off. And I think that's pretty clean. I also want to take the tire itself and just on the inside surface here, just go around it one good time, make sure that I've got it cleaned up. I'm not so much worried about the outside, but I do want to make sure there's nothing on that inside that'll keep it from sticking. So now comes the fun part of putting the tire onto the machine, and we're going to have to stretch it on. So to do this, I'm just going to kind of put the tire up on the top. I've got a piece of webbing here. This is actually off of a ratchet strap. And I'm just going to make a couple of nice tight wraps around this. It's a little bit aggravating because this piece is long and it still has the buckle on the other end, but I think we can work around it. But because this is a spoked wheel, I've got my strap where it is right up against one of the spokes, and I'm going to use that spoke as leverage here to kind of help me pull this thing on. So we're just getting something that we can attach to it without damaging it. Some people use clamps. Clamps are okay, but they can damage the rubber. They can cut into the rubber. This flat strap trick works really well and doesn't really damage the wheel. All right, that's probably enough wraps. I'm just going to the last one here will be up under the tire. That will just kind of hold it in place, and we can get that off at the very end. Shouldn't be any problem at all. All right, now that that is on there, I'm going to start stretching this tire. And I'm going to actually, as we're going, notice I'm pulling on the tire and I'm stretching it. This is going to be a tight fit, and we're going to need to get some stretch into it as we go here. I'm not too worried at this point in time about getting it perfectly centered on the tire. We can do some of that here in a little bit. We can fix that after it kind of gets on here. And there we go. I'm going to pull my strap out now. Unwind this mess. And there you go. The tire is on. Now I can kind of go in here and get it centered back up onto the wheel. All right, that looks pretty good. Now that we got the tire on, we're not finished yet. There's still one very important step. You notice when we stretched that on there that, I was pulling it a lot harder at the end than I was at the beginning. So right now, the stresses in this tire are different. The stretching in it is different in different places on there, and I want to try to equalize that a little bit. So I'm going to start right here, and the reason I'm choosing right here, there's a big counterweight, so I know that this is just something that I can tell when I've been around a revolution. You can take a marker or something and mark it. I've got a 1-inch dowel rod here, and I'm just going to put that in there. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go around a couple of times, just like this right here. And what this is going to do is this is going to help us equalize that stretch. I'm just going to roll around this tire probably a couple of times, and by picking it up and dropping it down, that will make our stretching tension in this belt. It'll just equalize it all the way around. I've got my 2-part epoxy here. We're ready to mix this up. This mixes up in a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm just going to take a little bit. We'll put it out here. I'm just putting it on a little piece of cardboard, and I'm going to do these in fairly small batches just because this stuff is going to start curing pretty quickly, and I would rather mix up a couple of batches. So roughly 1-to-1 there. Take you a little wooden stick here, mix it up really well, and we'll be ready to start applying that. I want to get that mixed up until it is completely mixed, has a nice creamy white look all the way through it. Now I'm going to take this stick with the little flat stick, and we're just going to kind of come in here and smear this onto both the wood and the rubber. And we'll just use our little dowel now to work our way around. That dowel kind of gives us a perfect access up underneath there to spread this stuff out. I want to make sure we got plenty in there. And we'll just work our way around. Trying to pay a little bit close attention here as we go around. I want to make sure my tire is centered onto the wheel. In the case of this one, it's not overhanging. I've got just maybe a 1/16 of an inch gap there on either side, which is fine. If the tire does overhang, you want it to overhang a little bit on both sides. You can easily trim it up after the fact with a razor knife. Just like that, we have our first wheel or tire cemented onto the wheel, and we're just going to let this sit here and cure right now. Now, I mentioned earlier a little bit about crowning the tires, and in the case of these Crescent wheels, if you put a straight edge on here, you can kind of see how that rocks. So there's a high spot in the center. That is what you want on your bandsaw tires. You want it to have a crown, again, because this wheel was actually crowned, the casting was actually crowned. I'm not going to have to worry about adding that crown on as a secondary step. If your wheel is flat, once this cement dries, you will need to come in here with a sander or a grinder or something and kind of put that crown where you have a little bit of a taper on either side. And I'm not going to be doing that, so you can go look on YouTube or on the internet. There's several examples out there of how you can accomplish that on the machine. And with that, guys, we have successfully installed our bandsaw tires. Fairly easy job, but very important job to have good rubber on your wheels. And I've got the one up top to do. I'll be done with this job, but thought I'd share that with you guys. And with that, that is going to be a wrap on this video. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, VintageMachinery.org, if you haven't already. And thumbs up and comments are always appreciated. Guys, we'll catch you on the next video.